One love, ladies and gentlemen. And much thanks and much props to CannaTech for giving us this platform to share a little bit of our story. Now, 25 years ago, at the dawn of this country's democracy, I just finished my law degrees and I was about to embark on my journey as an attorney or as an advocate in this country. But my government told me that you are not fit and proper to practice law. I immediately checked, but fit and proper according to who? This is South Africa, and I am a native of this soil. My ancestors are the First Nation people of this country, and Dagga Cannabis has always formed part of the culture and the economic practices of the people of this country. And I argue that the laws against cannabis are immoral in principle, unworkable in practice, and patently unjust. So when injustice becomes law, then resistance becomes duty. So I rebelled. And they say the truth will set you free. The truth set me on a collision course with my government for the past 21 years. Because instead of lying about the fact that I've got a criminal record, I decided to speak the truth and reveal that to the law society. And on the basis of that, I was held not to be fit and proper to practice law. And my community was condemned to be criminals. And our culture was criminalized. And in that period, from 1997 until 2018, probably 5 to 6, 7 million people went to jail as a result of their association with the cannabis plant. So when I challenged the laws for the first time in 1998, South Africa being a conservative society, and we've only been a democracy at that time for 2 or 3 years, our approach towards the courts was that let's not ask for legalization or for decriminalization at that stage. Let us ask for an exemption for the Rastafarian community because the usage of cannabis formed part of our cultural or of our religious experiences. And we felt that that would enable us to get a foot into the door and thereby break the door open for the rest of us. At the time, they had just granted the rights unto the gays and lesbian community for them to assert their rights and for them to live their lives within South Africa under this beautiful sun of ours. So I thought that, well, if they gave it to the gays and lesbians, surely there's hope for us. Well, that was not to be. Our society, the Cape High Court, the Supreme Court of Appeals, as well as the Constitutional Court held that cannabis is something that society must be protected against, and that we could sacrifice the cannabis community on the altar of consumerism or on the altar of capitalism. That did not work out so well for the South African society because ever since that time, it has spiraled our society into the crisis in which they find ourselves here today. And even though 7 years later, from 2005, after we've gone to the African Court of Human Rights and People's Duties, and we've gone to the United Nations Human Rights Commission, we all got this all the way down. And we've seen that in that period, what has happened in the world is such that society, our species as a whole, seems to have degenerated as a result because of the fact that we've chosen to imprison and not unlock the potentials of this plant. In 2012, the police arrested me again in my house for cultivating my own cannabis. And they charged me with dealing, something that you can go to jail for 25 years in this country. And that is when we launched the constitutional challenge that ultimately led to the freedom of cannabis within this country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for me, the most crucial point is that the issue of cannabis freedom, because I don't like the term legalization or penalization, decriminalization, commercialization, these all form part of a paradigm that's on the way out. We need to form a new paradigm, new speech, new conceptions when it comes to this plant. Freedom, as we all know, comes with great responsibility. But we as a people are ready to take on those responsibilities. So I argue that the issue of cannabis freedom was an issue of equality. There's absolutely no basis in law why a user of tobacco or alcohol should be treated more favorable than a user of cannabis. There's absolutely no scientific or no legal reason to do that. But just as there was no scientific basis for apartheid, the laws against cannabis has always been immoral in principle and unworkable in practice. There's absolutely, the police did it because they could, not because they had any good reason to do that. Here you find that our society was simply prepared to condemn thousands of people towards prison. Now you must understand that in a society where you no longer have the death penalty, arresting a citizen is the most severe sanction that society can exercise against any person. And you don't just do that willy-nilly. We've always argued that there's absolutely no reason why a citizen should be deprived of his or her freedom because of their association with the cannabis plant. There's absolutely no reason for us to do that. However, the Constitutional Court decided that, well, you know, the nature of law is such that they only have to decide on one particular thing. So our Constitutional Court decided that the right to privacy is the one that was breached by the old cannabis laws. Because, quite frankly, to have accepted that it was the equality laws that was breached would have opened up a whole different can of worms within this country, something that our conservative legal fraternity was not prepared for. But what the courts did, they did their part. They declared that, therefore, there should no longer be any criminal laws against cannabis, and that, therefore, the freedom should be opened up. We should develop the laws in order to ensure that we now have an enabling framework and an industry, because we have always, the Rastafarian community have said, cannabis is the tree of life and the healing of all nations. You cannot talk about a green economy without cannabis, because that is the most sustainable, reliable, and renewable resource that we in South Africa have. And very important, we cannot allow them to bring cannabis apartheid back. This talks about CBD being better than THC. We are asked to say, until the philosophy which hold one cannabinoid to be more superior than the other is dismantled, discredited, and destroyed, we will not be able to reap the benefits from cannabis as we should. As Myrtle and Jill spoke about full spectrum extracts, that's what we want. Holistic applications of this plant. Let us not compartmentalize what it is the plant can do for us, but let us embrace the plant in its wholeness and allow her to show us the way towards becoming a better species. Yesterday I heard the COO of Aurora speaking of compassionate capitalism. You know, that, like legal ethics or military intelligence or telephonic service, that's an oxymoron. But cannabis allows us indeed to develop compassionate capitalism, to develop a system where, because the plant is such a plant of abundance, it allows everyone to rejoice and to profit of the plant. But the notion of putting profit above people or profit above the planet is one that we as a species desperately need to move away from. And the plant, this beautiful, benevolent cannabis plant, affords us with an opportunity to develop new business models, to develop new sustainable environmental practices, and for humanity to increase the vibes amongst the people, because we all need some good vibes, and it's been a very long time since we have no nice time. The cannabis plant indeed will allow us, if we get out of our own way, if our government gets out of their own way and free up the potential of the plant. Because indeed, ladies and gentlemen, cannabis for the healing of our earth in a sustainable, reliable, and renewable manner. Thank you very much.
That's his first public speaking.